Chapter 21 What a coincidence! Are you coming to the hospital too? Two more, on the top floor of Marine Hospital in Naval Headquarters Marineford, in the advanced ward with the most professional equipment, Claudius is lying on a hospital bed, wearing a hospital gown, with a lazy face, but he can't see it at all. It came out that he was fiercely vigorous with Jun on the training ground to win the victory with the same style of death. The scene at that time scared the group of people who knew Claudius's identity almost did not die on the spot, even Zephyr Admiral almost did not toss out a heart attack. Just kidding, Saint Claudius came under the CP0 name on the surface. It was just an agent seedling. Even if it was really full of potential, he accidentally died in Marineford. With his name as Admiral, he can also carry it down. There is no pressure at all. But is Saint Claudius an agent seedling? He is Celestial Dragons. Even if he is willing to hide his identity and come here to smash the place and get hurt or something, he doesn't ask for trouble and others won't care, but if he dies, it's another matter. However, after seeing the self-mutilation of Claudius, he defeated Jun with the same style of death. After winning the victory, he was still able to stand on the court, which is considered strong and strong. With Zephyr Admiral's eyesight, he can also see it can be concluded that a serious injury is a serious injury, but it will not die here. Therefore, at that critical moment, in order not to reveal Claudius' true identity and cause unnecessary trouble, he suppressed the butler Nia who wanted to fight Jun desperately, as well as Queen Stussy who was panicked in her heart. Zephyr Admiral now has a new change in Claudius' senses. When he didn't meet at first, he felt like a troublesome Celestial Dragons dude. After meeting at New World, he felt like he was pretty good. So he didn't hide it, and passed him all the practice techniques he wanted. After half a year, when he met again at the port of Marineford, he learned deeply that this Highness is a talented and hard-working person, and his future achievements may be limitless. And when Claudius didn't hesitate to pierce his abdomen with a knife, trying to get to the end with Jun and win the battle, Zephyr Admiral's view of Claudius also changed again. This is Celestial Dragons. Your Majesty is a cruel person. It's just a contest, and there will be no loss if he wins or loses. Even because he is hiding his identity, it will not have any impact on his reputation. It can be said that it is irrelevant at all, but in this way, he can be ruthless. Take a stab at yourself. Isn't this a ruthless person? You have to have the qualifications, you have to work hard, and you are ruthless to yourself. At a young age, you are very mature. Looking at it now, your Xingxing has been polished well. If this kind of person is really placed in their marine, Zephyr Admiral did not hesitate to cultivate it as the future Admiral, or even the seedling of the Marshal. It's a pity that such a good talent turned out to be Celestial Dragons. It really makes Zephyr Admiral feel heartbroken. The butler Ninja was right next to Claudius's bed, serving tea and water from time to time, making Claudius comfortable. But when she looked back and saw the figure lying on the other bed in the room, her face became very gloomy, and her mouth was still muttering something. When she listened carefully, she seemed to be cursing. Yes, this is a three-person ward, and it is also the highest ward in Naval Headquarters. Generally, only 3 Admiral or Marshals will be treated here when they are injured. Of course, when it is usually useless, they will not be alone. Putting it here is a waste of resources. If the seedlings in Marine that deserve to be cultivated and valued are injured, depending on the situation, they can also be treated and recuperated here. On the bed that was torn apart by Nia's butler, lying on the bed was Jun Commodore, who was defeated by Claudius with a change of lifestyle. Although Claudius won, but Jun's physical fitness is obviously much better than his Claudius. Think about it, after all, Jun has the name of Zoan Eudemons. The most proud of Zoan's ability is their strong vitality and physical quality. Among them, the Eudemons is the best. Although Jun's physical fitness is much better, she was pierced in her abdomen, and it was impossible to run around for a few hours. After all, her ability was not awakened. And Claudius didn't dislike it. In addition, she was the blessing of being the focus of Marine's attention. At this time, she was also recuperating in this top-notch ward. Seeing that Claudius was lying here, with a maid-like guy beside him, Jun said with a little disdain, if it wasn't for the cruelty that you could feel on the training ground before. Watching this scene, people who don't know thought you were the eldest young master of a noble family. Claudius glanced at Jun lying there, smiled and said, what? Is it possible that Jun Commodore is unconvinced with this victory? Jun was so stunned by Claudius, she felt a little aggrieved. She couldn't feel it. Claudius was not stronger than her, and it could even be said that in terms of hard power, it was obviously weaker than her. But victory or defeat is victory or defeat. At that time, Claudius had the courage to kill himself, and he was qualified to win the title. Jun is not a guy who can't afford to lose, so even though he was a little frustrated in his heart, he still opened his mouth and said, I still can't afford to lose. That's good, after all, I don't want to give myself another knife. Claudius said with a smile. After personally competing, how can he not feel that there is still a big gap between himself and Jun? It's just that in the competition, he used this fierce strength to flatten the gap, and then he won the victory by chance. Based on these two fights, Claudius has also calculated his own strength. If it is calculated by the standards of Marine's Vice Admiral leaders, he is now a Commodore name, and there is no pressure at all. It belongs to the Flying Squirrel. The Colonel is much stronger in terms of overall strength, but there is still a certain gap between him and the top Commodore Jun. However, Claudius is not discouraged. He believes that in the future, he will definitely be able to surpass the potential stock of Jun in terms of positive strength. After a few words with Jun, Claudius stopped paying attention to her. In fact, Jun is still a very attractive woman. She is young, strong, capable, and has a profound future. The key to her potential is her skin-white beauty, long legs, first-class figure, superb appearance, and a proper goddess-level player. But just like the nature of Stussy, Claudius is also very interested in Jun, but there is nowhere to put it. If you want to ask to go home to be a wife, it seems good, but it's a bit too bad. This idea is to let Jun continue to sublimate in Marine. It is the best choice. Anyway, Claudius is still young, so he doesn't have to worry about these things. Maybe he will wait until he is an adult and the time is right. Yuan also happened to be a candidate for Admiral or something, and then it was the time. But to say so, even if Jun is a marine flower, Claudius has only met her. With his heart, it is impossible for him to be a waste wood that can't move his legs when he meets a woman. Therefore, although Claudius was interested in Jun at this time, he was not very interested. Looking at the guy lying on the third bed, Claudius was very interested. Because that guy is not someone else, but the revolutionary leader eldest brother Darag that Claudius is thinking of. It's a coincidence. This guy doesn't know what's going on, and he's also hospitalized here. As the son of marine hero Garp, he is also very strong and has potential in the future. Everyone thinks that if he is a step by step. If you go down, you will inevitably become Marine Admiral and even Marine Marshal. Therefore, it is reasonable for him to be hospitalized in this high-level ward because of his injuries. However, it seems that although he doesn't know what injury he suffered, and how he was injured, his injury should be almost healed, and he can run around on his own, and pour himself tea and snacks. At first, he talked a few words with Jun. It seemed to be very familiar. This did not surprise Claudius. After all, in his impression, it is hard to say now, but the relationship between Jun and Garp will be very good in the future. Yes, they call Garp casually as Little Garp, very intimate. So the relationship between Jun Club and Darag is good, and it seems that it should be right, but Darag didn't say anything to Claudius, he just greeted Claudius when he moved in, only if he was a CP0 agent seedling. At this time, Darag was leaning on the bed, holding a book in his hand, and reading those articles quietly. It seemed that he didn't seem to be the guy who would become the most murderous criminal later, but a little bit the feeling of literary breath, there is no weird blood-red lines on the face, it is estimated that Garp Vice Admiral has not been slapped with the solace of the shoes. I really can't find any place to break through the iron shoes. It takes no effort. My Royal Highness was thinking about how to get along with this bastard guy. Now, in a blink of an eye, I become a patient friend? Ha 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 ha. Claudius, I thought so in my heart. That's right, he didn't expect to get involved with Darag so quickly before, but before coming to Malinford, he did prepare a bit, lest he really met him like this, and there was no reason to come. Get in touch. With Darag here, what else do you care about Jun? Claudius received his thoughts and said to the butler Naya, who was brewing new tea, Naya, help me get the book I brought, I want to see it again. After hearing this, Nia quickly put down the work in her hand, looked at Claudius and asked, Hall, cough, Mr. Crow, which one do you want to read? Civil rights. Claudius said in a deep voice after pretending to think about it. Just as he said this, Darag, who was still reading quietly, seemed to move his eyelids, and looked at Claudius with some curiosity. Nia's movements were also very quick, and she quickly took out the book Civil Rights from the package she brought and handed it to Claudius. Claudius smiled, then opened the book and read it, and he whispered a few words softly, the people are the most valuable, the society is the second, and Kun is the light. Originally lying on the other side, Darag, who was curious about the book titled Civil Rights that Claudius read, flashed his eyes as if he became more interested after hearing these few words. He was not an indecisive person, and he was not so shy, so after being curious, he didn't hide it, and directly asked Claudius, this friend, what book are you reading? Where can I buy it? As soon as Claudius heard Darag's voice, he laughed in his heart, and he was really hooked. But he still pretended to be a little confused, turned his head to look at Darag, and asked, are you talking about this? This is called Civil Rights, but maybe you can't buy it. Darag was a little surprised when he heard what Claudius said. Could it be that the book in his hand is still an isolated copy? But I think it's true. Although I didn't see the content inside, but just listened to a sentence, the book that made him interested, maybe it is the work written by the sages before? And the content of this sentence seems to be inconsistent with the times. It seems a bit deviant. It is disliked by the world government and is not allowed to be printed. It seems normal. As for how this person got it, I heard him chat with Jun before. Although Durag did not participate, he also heard some information. First of all, this guy is a member of CP0 under the world government, and it looks like his identity is also quite special. Maybe he is a senior in CP0, otherwise he won't be able to come to this kind of senior ward to recuperate as soon as he gets injured, and it seems that Zephyr Admiral gives him a lot of face and takes care of him. His appearance. Such a relationship household who is similar to himself holds these two unusual orphan books in his hand, it seems that it's not a big deal. Anyway, although he guessed that Claudius's identity should not be easy, he did not think about the level of celestial dragons. After all, if Claudius were celestial dragons, it would be incredible. Who has ever seen celestial dragons be so cruel, giving yourself a knife in the competition? Really? Durag didn't argue with anything, just a look of regret in his tone. Seeing this, Claudius smiled and said, "This book is nothing precious to me. If you want to see it, please take it, Nia." Listening to Claudius's call, Nia did not refute anything, and immediately took the civil rights from Claudius, and then walked to Durag's side and handed the book to Durag. Durag doesn't know if he has inherited Garp's unrestrained cheeks. He didn't say anything at all. He happily said, "Thank you so much for this, friend. I haven't asked for advice yet." Crow, CP0 interim member, Claudius responded with a smile. Temporary member. Durag was a little strange, but he didn't think much about it. After all, he seemed to be very good at his identity. Maybe he was plated with gold in CP0, and there were other arrangements later. What's a good way out? The first time I met, even if Durag's face was so thick, he was too embarrassed to inquire about other people's details. Anyway, he was able to lie down in this Marine senior ward. He was half of his own person anyway, and he did not doubt his identity. Some type of. I saw Durag also smiled and said, "Monkey D. Durag, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral." Doriage is a few years older than Kuzan, and he was taken by Lao Zi to join Marine since he was a child. So although he is not very young, in his 20s, he is already in the position of Vice Admiral, and one step further is Admiral is on standby. However, with the increase of age and experience, he has become more and more uncomfortable. He always feels that Marine, the banner of justice, does not seem to fit his mind very well. It's just not long after this idea came into being. He didn't even sort out his thoughts himself, so he didn't think much about it. It's just that he was very interested in these thought books recently, and wanted to find something that he could do. Thoughts of solving puzzles by yourself. This is also the main reason why Durag was very curious when he heard Claudius's studying sound just now, because he was now in a confused stage. Monkey. Claudius pretended to be a little surprised, and looked at Durag. Durag waved his hand a little embarrassedly, and said, "Yes, that's the monkey, and his father is Garp Vice Admiral." It turned out to be the son of Garp Vice Admiral, so disrespectful. Claudius also smiled and said. Durag obviously didn't want to rely on his father's name to swindle, so he just smiled and didn't say much, and Claudius stopped mentioning these things when he saw it. But Doriage could see that when Claudius talked about his father Garp Vice Admiral, there was not much fluctuation in his gaze. Obviously, this guy didn't mean to have a relationship with Garp Vice Admiral through him. As a Durag who often encounters such things, he believes that he will not be wrong on such things, so he also overestimates the identity of some of the elders behind Claudius, who should be a name or power that is not weaker than his father. People. Such a person is better. It's not that Durag is careful. For so many years, he has experienced a lot of people who want to have a relationship with him, mostly for profit. If Claudius interacts with people of his own level like this, it doesn't matter what interests are, he just depends on friendship, right? But this is just a first impression. What kind of guy Claudius is in the future depends on whether there is a chance to contact him again in the future, and then understand. If Claudius knew about Durag's thoughts, he would only smile. Maybe people of their level would attach more importance to the word interest when they make friends. After chatting for a few more words, Durag couldn't wait to open the book and read it. I didn't know it. I was shocked when I saw it. All the things written in this book were things he hadn't touched before. Thoughts can even be said to be rebellious. No wonder that Mr. Crow said that this book is not available for purchase, and that the world government will propagate this idea when it is ill. But Durag had to admit that this kind of great rebelliousness thought seemed to be very enlightening to him, and even made him feel that the confusion accumulated in his heart had disappeared a lot. Water can carry a boat and it can overturn the boat. There are no people. How is Kun called, Kun? The people are governed together. Okay, that's a good point. Durag kept praising the book in his heart. After a long time, he condensed his mind, and then began to look for a signature on this book. He wanted to see what kind of great wisdom he was in order to write such a concise and thought-provoking book. However, he turned it over several times, and almost opened the cover, and did not find the signature, so he was also very sorry in his heart. It seems that the sage who wrote this book may not dare to put his name on it. This is also easy to understand. If caught, it would be a serious crime of decapitation. Oh, sorry, I wish I could read more books of this great wise man. Durag shook his head helplessly and said. When he said this, he didn't avoid Claudius and Jun. Jun didn't say much. He had a good relationship with him, and at the same time he didn't know what he was looking at, so it didn't matter. As for Claudius, he read this book first, and then read it after himself. Even if there is a problem, it is Claudius as the principal culprit, so when Durag said this, he had no scruples at all. After a short pause, he looked at Claudius and asked, "This friend, what do you think of this book?" Claudius froze for a moment, and then said embarrassedly, "So, barely. After all, it was something he wrote himself. At this time, I kept blowing the comparison here." It seemed a bit embarrassing, so Claudius chose to use a more modest and shy statement. Durag was taken aback when he heard the words, and then shook his head and said, "It seems that you may not be able to grasp the true meaning of it. In my opinion, this book is more than ordinary, not to mention reluctantly. I am amazed by the wisdom and ideas contained in the book." Speaking of this, Durag seemed to have suddenly lost his interest, and shook his head regretfully, saying, "It's a pity, although I only looked at it roughly, I can see that this is just a general program, the real essence, it didn't even spread out." Thinking of this, Durag was stunned. This book belonged to Mr. Crow. Maybe he collected a complete set? So Durag hurriedly asked, "Excuse me, this friend, do you have any follow-ups about this book?" Claudius smiled, shook his head and said, "Not yet, no." As expected, Durag nodded without much surprise, but as soon as he murmured a few words, he looked up at Claudius in surprise and asked, "I don't know what you said. Why is it temporarily? Not yet? Will it be in the future? Is it the reason why the remaining books have not been collected although there are clues? Think about it, too, such a book that contains great wisdom, it should be very difficult to collect a full set of books, right?" Thinking of this, Durag continued to say, "If it is troublesome to collect this set of books, please let me know that Durag is willing to help me with this kind of thing." Claudius also felt weird listening to Durag's words. Why is the tone of this guy's speech so literary? Still meager power? Had it not been for I knew that you would become the criminal leader in the future, I would have thought you were a scholar who was going to Beijing for the exam. Claudius himself misunderstood this. In fact, Durag has always had a literary aura in his heart, unlike his Laozi, who speaks carelessly and is not stingy. When he speaks, he is rather literary. At this time, I felt that Claudius should also be a cultural person. There was no peer in Marine who could allow him to communicate like this, so when he talked, he couldn't help but start to draw text. It's not that it can't be collected. Claudius put aside the thoughts of Tuko Durag, smiled and shook his head. "That's it?" Durag asked curiously. Claudius was very pretentious and kept silent, shaking his head gently, while the housekeeper Nia was in a tacit understanding with Claudius, times and she was also very pleasing to Durag at this time. It's not because Durag is handsome or something, it's just because Durag is very respectful of the books of Her Royal Highness, just this is enough to brush up the goodwill of the housekeeper Nia. Therefore, at this critical moment of pretending to be a match, the butler Nija did not lose the chain, and said softly to Durag, "Because this book was written by our Mr. Crow, you still have some insights. This book is really just a general outline, and Mr. Crow has only written a little in the follow-up, and has not yet been sorted into a book and printed out." As soon as the words of the butler Nia fell, Durag was stunned. He looked at Claudius with suspicion, but he seemed to have thought of something. He picked up the book in his hand again and flipped it left and right. "A few pages," exclaimed, "is it really newly printed?" He didn't pay attention just now. At this time, the butler Nija said, and he read it again. "The paper is brand new and white, without any yellowing. It smells like a little bit of printed ink." As a literary youth, Rager can of course see that this is a book that has only recently come out. So he already believed a little bit in his heart, but he still had some doubts. Did Mr. Crow find some unknown ancient books and plagiarize them? Don't tell me, he really guessed right, but in this world, he can't confirm anything at all. Claudius is indeed the original. Thinking of this, Durag said, "If it was really written by this friend, it would really be an eye-opener for me. I have been a little confused recently. I hope you can ask your excellency to help me out." Claudius nodded in satisfaction. "Your Highness is waiting for your kid to come to ask for advice, and see my brainwashing method." Although he felt so stinky in his heart, Claudius said modestly, "I don't dare to be puzzled, just confirm each other, it's okay." Chapter 23 To teach and educate people depends on him, Garp. 4 more, Claudius stayed in naval headquarters for 7 days, and then was hospitalized for 6.5 days. On the 3rd day, the beautiful Commodore Jun, who was injured with him, was discharged from the hospital, and she seemed to be impatient in this high-level ward. There are 3 people in this high-class ward, Claudius, Durag, and Jun feels that he has been ignored and squeezed out. The bastard Claw and Durag seem to be in love and sit together every day. Talking some messy things, Jun's head grew louder for a while. I think how I say it is also a flower of marine, wherever I go, there is no shortage of licking dogs and kneeling and licking behind her, especially the number 2 master of Tianzi in the officers' training camp. In the future, the big guy who will also go to the alternate position of Admiral is Jun's god-level licking dog, who licks behind Jun all day, and is hospitalized for 3 days. He comes 4 times. But that's it. Both Durag and Claudius seem to have no interest in talking nonsense with Jun, this beautiful outsider. At most, they talked to her a few words when they were resting. Looking at the butler Nia, she had no good attitude towards Jun, who caused Claudius to be injured, let alone what kind of face she would give Jun. Therefore, after being humiliated, Jun used the ability of Zoan. With his strong vitality, after almost recovering from his injury, he went through the discharge formalities immediately and left this high-level ward. On the other hand, Durag, his injury is almost healed, he could have been discharged from the hospital long ago, but because Claudius is still hospitalized here, in order to be able to confuse more from Claudius, he is forced to be here more. Stayed for several days. Relying on the limitations of the times, even if Durag had some good ideas in his mind, he was still more confused. He thought that the reason why his ideas could be achieved in the future and to create a revolutionary army followed by tens of thousands of people should be because of him. In the future, I will travel around the world, constantly combining my own thoughts with practice, and come up with a set of deceptive theories. But Claudius is different. He used to live in the era of the information explosion, and there is no limitation of the current era to limit his vision and thoughts. The various ideas in his mind are unconstrained, and he understands all theories and theories. 2 3 4 5 6, although it is not a grandmaster, but it is completely enough to flick the countryside turtle of Durag. It is also to suit what Claudius said. The ideas that Claudius said can roughly resonate with Durag. Therefore, in this short period of 7 days, Durag has already respected Claudius very much. It is not about strength and ability. The respect, but the respect for Claudius' ideas and pattern. If it weren't for Claudius not wanting to worship him, this guy would almost behead the chicken, burn the yellow paper, and become a brother of another surname with Claudius. However, just as the two were celebrating their time, some unexpected guests came. At this time, in this ward, Durag, his lousy Garp Vice Admiral, who can be called the Marine's combat power ceiling, was holding his nose and tilted up. An Erlang, sitting on Durag's hospital bed, seems to have come to teach Durag, a bastard son who is unwilling to leave the hospital. You bastard, what kind of injury did I know? You should have been discharged from the hospital 5 days ago. It turned out to be good. You stayed here for 5 more days. What do you do? Escape Marine Vice is Admiral's obligation? How do you let me be lousies like this? No matter what you say, you must be discharged from the hospital today. There is a task that requires you to go. After Garp Vice Admiral said this, glanced at Claudius who was sitting on another hospital bed, and didn't continue to elaborate on the task. It's not to prevent Claudius from leaking news. After all, Claudius is a celestial dragons. He knows this kind of thing very well, so he doesn't want to cause any trouble, especially if this celestial dragons is very troublesome. What should I do if I want to follow along if I'm interested? The second thing is that Garp doesn't have a good impression of celestial dragons, especially after the Battle of the Valley of Gods. He hated those bastards celestial dragons even more. At this time even his good brother Zephyr Admiral has already said that Claudius is different. For ordinary celestial dragons, he is a very good guy, but Garp's prejudices in his mind for so many years cannot be lost casually, so he still has no superfluous feelings about Claudius. At most, he thinks this kid is quite tough. Can be cruel to win against Jun. Hearing this, Durag shook his head and said, I am not going. I am not the only Vice Admiral in Marine. I need to run for everything. I think you are quite free. You have time to be here with me. It's waste, it's better to take a trip by yourself, don't disturb my business. Durag didn't give his father face at all, so he rejected Garp Vice Admiral's proposal in a few words. This made Garp Vice Admiral annoyed. He patted the bedboard and said, do you still know that you are a Marine Vice Admiral? Now the situation in New World is weird. The guy Golden Lion Shiki wiped out Akoku's power and hit Akoku badly. Now it's a good opportunity to catch Akoku. You walk with me, find Akoku and take him to Impel Down. Not to mention a lot of work, you lousy, I also have light on my face. Hearing Garp burst out the mission, Claudius was also very curious in his heart. He knew Golden Lion Shiki, but he didn't know very well about the big pirate Akoku. He only knew that he was from Rock's pirate, just like Shiki. Coming out, seeing Garp feel so excited, he should be one of his old friends, right? I'm going to go, I have more important things than these now. Durag said, still very dissatisfied. As soon as he heard what Durag said, Garp became furious and asked, what is it? Is there anything more important than the justice of this marine? More important than the elimination of evil? Akoku is just a problem of ringworm, especially since he was scrapped by Golden Lion Shiki. Even if you don't take me, you can just find him and you can clean him up, so it's a trivial matter for me. When I was in the most confused moment in my life and the most able to get rid of this confusion, this is the big thing for me. Durag said without hesitation. You bastard, Lao Zi is your father. Garp Vice Admiral cursed very angry. Watching this scene, Claudius was also very emotional. When it comes to Garp, he is good at everything. He needs strength and strength, record and record, fame and reputation, but only one thing is very bad, that is, education. Junior. According to Claudius, in Marine's education sector, there are two big names. The first is Zephyr Admiral. He can be said to be Marine's future headmaster-level figure, a highly respected category. And he is the only one who can compare with him in educating talents. I am afraid that only Garp is the big boss. If Zephyr teaches and educates people and educates Marine, it is to train on the right way. 3 admirals and a series of marine real powers have been obtained. Admiral, the words of countless senior generals. The training of this guy Garp is nothing short of a sin. He clearly has a sincere heart. He wants to cultivate some great talents for Marine, but it turns out that he forcibly cultivated his son into the world's most murderous criminal. That's not it. After the calculation, my son's number is dead, so change to a trumpet, and start preparing to cultivate Roger's own son Porgas d'Ace into an excellent Marine. This is even worse. As an adult, he went out to sea to be Whitebeard's son. He didn't have any contact with Marine at all. Next was his grandson, Luffy. He also hurried on the road of pirates all the way. The world government's heart is suffering. Claudius felt that if it wasn't for the world government, that Garp's reputation was too dazzling, his strength was very strong, and he was still an old man who was about to retire, they would have to kill the bastard Garp to relieve his anger. At this time, looking at the way Garp and Durag contact, Claudius can understand why Garp is able to cultivate his own son and grandson on the opposite side of his own position. Without him, it is because of Garp. The guy is too strong and always wants his son and grandson to follow the established route he planned. But this guy only knows to plan a route, and then he doesn't ask. If others are unhappy, he will jump out and stir up, and forcibly break this route straight. If things go on like this, even if it is his son and grandson, he will give birth to some rebellion. The psychology is also very normal. What's more, his son and grandson are both dragons and phoenixes. How could it be possible that they didn't have any ideas of their own? Over time, the father-son relationship between Durag and Garp is a little stiff, even though Durag knows that Garp is doing him good, but he is very angry that Garp has no intention to discuss with him. So it has become a scene of good intentions doing bad things now. Seeing that Durag was about to fight with his father, Claudius had to intervene. Otherwise, the two guys broke up. Afterwards, Garp Vice Admiral investigated and found that Durag was unwilling to leave the hospital. The reason for this was his Claudius, so he was carrying a scapegoat for no reason. Claudius was determined not to carry such a bad scapegoat. The second thing is, what if the two people fight here and accidentally spill him Claudius in? Our injury hasn't healed yet, so I don't want to suffer from Wuvong disaster again. So Claudius hurriedly said, Durag, don't worry about it. Many things are one thing when I talked about it, but it's another thing when you see it. You can't just engage in theory, but also practice. Combine it together. I think Garp Vice Admiral's proposal is very good. You go out with him to see the world more, combine the thoughts that we have confirmed each other in the past few days, and see if there are any new inspirations and omissions. Is it also a solution to puzzles? Hearing what Claudius said, Durag was stunned for a moment, and then before he could speak, Claudius continued, and my injury is almost better. After all, I am not from Marine, and it won't matter if I continue to stay. I haven't told you before, I am also going to leave Malinford and return to Marie Joyce. Hearing what Claudius said, Durag hesitated a little, and finally nodded, and said to Laozi Garp, who looked at him, in that case, I will come with you. Garp is a little stunned at this time. How stubborn his son is, can he know how old he is? At this time, seeing that Claudius convinced his son in a few words, he was also very surprised. As a result, his impression of Claudius has also changed. It seems, perhaps as Zephyr said, this Claudius Saint may be different from the usual bastard celestial dragons. Garp thought in his heart. After Durag agreed to Garp's mission, he turned his head to look at Claudius, and said with a smile, Mr. Crow and I have seen each other right away. This time we say goodbye. I don't know when we can meet again. Let me leave a contact information. If I am confused, I can say a few words to you. Of course Claudius would not refuse this kind of thing, nodded, and called out, Naya. The housekeeper Naya knew it, and immediately took out a phone bug from his bag and handed it to Durag. Then the two exchanged phone bug signals, and then Durag followed Garp to go through his discharge procedures. NS walking in the corridor of the Marine Hospital, Durag was silent for a while and asked, Who is that Mr. Crow? I think he is not just a CP0 agent, right? Garp looked at Dorage with a complicated expression, then shook his head and said, Since he didn't tell you, I won't tell you more. Asterisk Chapter 24 Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons Sabayati Archipelago. One more, after Durag left, Claudius did not continue to be hospitalized. He was not a marine, and naturally he did not need to go through any discharge procedures. After packing up his things, he left Naval Headquarters Malinford. Before leaving, I met with Zephyr Admiral again. What surprised him was that Marine, a flower from Jun, had time to come to the port to send him off. The reason is that Claudius can beat her opponent on the training ground. Out of respect for the opponent, she came to send Claudius. She also said that if there is a chance to compete next time, she will definitely not lose to Claudius because of this mistake, and asked Claudius to be careful. Looking at this Tsundera's marine flower, Claudius also wanted to laugh a little, give it to his mother next time? Next time you will be compete, Lao Zi will put you on the bed and perform 18 martial arts, so that you can kneel and beg for mercy. But these are the dirty thoughts in Claudius's heart. Aside from these, Claudius also thinks that if there is another contest, then he should be able to rely on his own hard power to go head-to-head in Jun. If you want to ask why, because Claudius has already received from Zephyr what he had predetermined before coming this time. That's what Zephyr Admiral wrote about the way and method of the practice of Haki's power. To talk about the power of Haki, Claudius knows that there are two people who are the strongest in this aspect among Marines. The first one is the principal Zephyr he has targeted. Zephyr Admiral removes the Admiral who does not kill. In addition to the name of Benevolence, there is also a very domineering name of Black Arm. This Black Arm describes that his armament Haki has been cultivated to the ultimate strength, and Zephyr is not a devil fruit-capable person. He can walk step by step to the position of Marine Admiral now, relying on himself. That powerful Conqueror's Haki will not say anything. This thing is enhanced based on human experience, not to mention that Claudius hasn't even awakening now, let alone any practice. As for armament Haki and observation Haki, both have to be carefully considered, and Zephyr Admiral is undoubtedly the top figure who has trained both of these powers at home. With this hand Haki, Marine's highest combat power, there is no pressure on the sign. As for the other person in Marine who can be comparable to Zephyr in strength of Haki, or even stronger, that is the daddy of this guy Durag, Marine Hero Garp Vice Admiral. There is no doubt that this guy Garp is the battle ceiling in Marine, with the title of Vice Admiral. In fact, his strength is not weaker than Admiral, and he can even be stronger. So why didn't Claudius choose to get the power of Haki from the stronger Garp? The reason is simple, because this guy Garp is not good at this kind of education, at least he is not good at Zephyr. Looking at the teaching materials in Claudius's hands today, it's nothing in detail. As long as Zephyr can think of the experience and insights, he has ridden on it with all his might, and through the contact with Claudius in the past few days and a deeper understanding, he also wrote some suggestions based on Claudius's own personal situation. It can be seen that Zephyr Admiral is very concerned about Claudius. It is estimated that if Garp is replaced, he can completely sort out a set of Haki practice methods and write them down. Thank God, I hope he can do it. So careful? Non-existent? Well, Zephyr Admiral is such a good person. According to this level, I should call him Ms. Zephyr in the future. Claudius stood on the deck of the ship that carried him shortly after leaving Malinford. Looking at the information left by Zephyr Admiral in his hand, he murmured very emotionally. I have to say that Zephyr Admiral is also guilty of him, whether it is because of his love of teaching and educating people or because of his respect to Claudius, the celestial dragons. Anyway, Zephyr Admiral, he didn't treat Claudius wrongly. Therefore, Claudius is also willing to respect Zephyr as his teacher. After all, he is not a Byakugan wolf. If others treat him badly, he naturally has to tidy up, but if anyone treats him with a heart, then it must also treat people with sincerity. I have a chance to help Zephyr Admiral, Claudius murmured, and then he called out, Stussy. Stussy has been waiting for Claudius in Naval Headquarters Malinford these days. After all, Claudius doesn't leave. As a guard, she dare not leave. As soon as she heard Claudius call, she immediately took a step forward and asked softly, His Royal Highness, what's your order? After Marie joins, you can transfer some powerful guys back to CP0 and arrange to be with Zephyr Admiral's family. Don't reveal your identity, just be friends or something. If they encounter any danger, they must at all costs protect Zephyr Admiral's family, do you understand? Claudius thought about it for a while, then arranged. Although Stussy didn't know the meaning of Claudius's remarks, he nodded quickly and agreed to the errand. Stussy may be puzzled, but Claudius still knows very well that even if Zephyr Admiral's family lives in the naval headquarters of Marie Joyce, it looks extremely safe, but it is indispensable to go out for a stroll. Anyway, I don't know where it is. In short, Zephyr Admiral's family is indeed suffering. Claudius was not prepared to be nosy in the past, but now that he has benefited from Zephyr Admiral's heart-wrenching, he can't just sit back and watch. Because of too many uncertainties, he has to use the simplest and the most simple. An effective way to arrange it is to send a few masters to protect it. It should still be effective if you think about it, Claudius thought in his heart. The assault on Marine Admiral's family can be said to be unprecedented, so Claudius is very willing to believe that this incident was an accident and a coincidence among coincidences. As long as he intervenes a little, the possibility of failure is very high, that's enough. Naval Headquarters Malinford is not too far from Sabaody Archipelago. In terms of voyage, it takes less than half a day. On this trip, Claudius didn't intend to go back to Marie Joyce and continue to be an otaku. He decided to see the scenery on Sabaody Archipelago based on the idea that he had come. After all, this Sabaody Archipelago is also a famous island. It is at the end of the first half of the Grand Line and is also the gateway to New World. On this archipelago, it can be said that anything can happen. You can see the celestial dragons aloft, you can also see the slaves living at the bottom, you can see the marine general who holds the banner of justice, and you can see the pirates who do no evil. That's right, you ran into Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and even the One Piece on this island. Roger, who is called Gold, shouldn't be too surprised, because these people can't walk the way of Marie Joyce. Think to get in and out of the first half of the Grand Line and New World, you can only take this road, or you can cross the Calm Belt and make a big circle. Therefore, this Sabaody Archipelago can be called a place where fish and dragons are mixed and turbulent. But for Claudius, the danger is not great, because Sabaody Archipelago is an island directly under the celestial dragons. Yes, if you insist, it can even be regarded as the back garden of celestial dragons, Fief, and other places. Everything on Sabaody Archipelago, large and small, is under the control of celestial dragons. It is also very close to the Holy Land Marie Joyce and Naval Headquarters Marineford. Whether it is the support of the CP organization or the support of the Naval Headquarters, it can be in the shortest arrived in time. So as long as Claudius doesn't meet a dumb boy like Luffy, who will punch celestial dragons regardless of coming up, he doesn't have to worry about danger even if he walks sideways on this island. And there are really not many stunners like Luffy, and Claudius feels that he should not be so unlucky. Generally, pirates want to land on the Sabaody Archipelago. They can only enter the Sabaody Archipelago from the port in the illegal zone, but Claudius is a distinguished identity, and you don't need to worry about it. He directly sailed Th-E ship to the Sabaody Archipelago, which was specially built for celestial dragons. At the luxurious port of the city, and then entered Sabaody Archipelago carefree. After leaving the port, Claudius also hid his identity again. Well, it's not really the case, but he didn't write the big letters that he was celestial dragons on his face. He only brought Stussy and Naya. The butler and some guards in the dark are just that. Judging from his appearance that he does not wear a bubble hood, does not ride around on slaves, and does not wear celestial dragon's robe, it is not necessary for him to deliberately hide his identity, but also for ordinary people will not recognize him. At most he looks like a powerful nobleman. In order to have something to do with celestial dragons, there are more nobles on the Sabaody Archipelago. After all, this is a place where it's easier to encounter celestial dragons. In case, you'll get lucky and hug your thighs. Woolen cloth? So now Claudius's outfit, on the Sabaody Archipelago, does not appear too conspicuous. While walking on the Sabaody Archipelago, Claudius looked left and right with very curious eyes, while observing the condition of the island. I have to say that except for the illegal areas, the order of Sabaody Archipelago is not bad, the scenery is first class, and the climate is also very good. Pleasant, it is indeed a good place to play, no wonder so many celestial dragons like to wander around here. Judging from the port just now, this island should already have his own Seal Dragon's compatriots, but Claudius didn't plan to meet them, say hello or something, and just go around on his own. His Royal Highness, here are the more interesting information on the Sabaody Archipelago. Could you please see where we can go? The butler Naya handed some of the prepared information to Claudius and asked. Road. Claudius opened it and looked at it. He had no interest at all about the soap bubble park, nor was he interested in sightseeing areas, specialty shops, and so on, so he finally set his sights on the illegal area. Then he smiled and said, let's go and see this auction. As soon as his words fell, Stussy's expression on the side became a little helpless, and he said, His Royal Highness, there is not a serious auction place, and there are some shady grey businesses in it. The most important thing is, it's located in an illegal zone, and it's more dangerous inside. At this time, the illegal area of Sabayati archipelago is still quite chaotic. The auction and the slave trade are not as detailed. Claudius estimates that it was after his big cousin Doflamingo reached into the Sabayati archipelago in the future that the slave trade was specifically divided. Industry came out, called employment agency. Therefore, in the current auction, there are auctions of slaves and some rare auctions. Claudius is going to see if there are any good things. It's okay, isn't your Stussy master here? Can anyone hurt me? Claudius said with a smile. Stussy smiled helplessly, and said, Stussy will definitely protect his highness to the death, but if there is a situation that I can't deal with, please Claudius Saint to show his identity, so as not to fall into any danger. Well, I promised you. Claudius nodded and said. After entering the lawless zone, it did feel a lot of chaos here, but Stussy followed all the way, and there were some secretly hidden guards behind him, and Claudius didn't meet any blind guys who came to make trouble. In fact, the chaos in this unlawful zone rarely affects people like Claudius who look like a nobleman at first glance. Basically, all kinds of bad incidents are aimed at those who are dead and no one cares. We went. On the contrary, aristocrats like Claudius are the main patrons in the eyes of their inferior people. Of course, if they can't be offended, it's better not to offend. There was no trouble entering the auction venue. Stussy came forward to deal with the auction owner, and soon someone took Claudius and others to the front row of the auction venue. Still not revealing his identity, sitting in the back row second only to the celestial dragon's seat, Claudius looked up and saw that there were two celestial dragons sitting in front of him. They didn't look big, they felt like they were in their 20s at most. Only relying on his back, Claudius did not recognize who these two guys were, but it seemed that they were the same as his predecessor, and they had no use for eggs. He knew that the lower celestial dragons were waiting to die by their blood, so Claudius didn't bother to go. He greeted him and sat in his seat indifferently, waiting for the start of the auction. As for the two celestial dragons sitting in front, they didn't even have the idea of looking back at the untouchables, chatting with each other. It sounded like they were bragging about slavery or something. Claudius sat here with nothing to do, so he closed his eyes and rested, recalling his exchanges with Durag over the past few days. To say whether there is any effect, it is definitely there. With a mouth, Durag has been half crippled, but Claudius has no hope at all if he can completely rewrite Durag's future. First of all, Durag is a very powerful guy. In a short period of time, he may think that Claudius's thoughts are very good, but a person like him is definitely not so easy to just pay attention to his head, and Claudius can feel it. Durag was just confirming his own thoughts, instead of taking all of Claudius's words as good words, he was just seeking common ground while reserving differences and absorbing these essences. But these are enough for the time being. Claudius just wants to get a relationship with Durag first, to be able to have a friendship, and when he can guide in the future, he can guide, not to guide, at least the two will not immediately become deadly enemies, there is so a space to mediate is enough. I thought that in a short period of time, I might not have seen much of Durag. After Claudius sorted out the thoughts, he stopped thinking about those things and rested quietly. It didn't take long. The people in this auction were almost there, and the boss didn't delay any time, and it started on time. Claudius has not participated in any auctions, but I have heard a lot about the routines, and now it is true that it is true. Claudius did not look at the treasures and slaves that appeared at the beginning, and there is nothing unusual. The same is true for the two celestial dragons in front, and they have never been overpriced. On the contrary, the ordinary aristocrats in the back were very interested in it, and were constantly vying for things that Claudius didn't like. The gap, it seems that the nobles in this world are not as high-end as I thought, or celestial dragons are better. Claudius thought in his heart. Just when he felt a little bored, did he come to the wrong place? Something really interesting began to appear at this auction. The first blockbuster auction item that came out was a slave of the giant race. He looked very strong and honest, but he had the sturdy atmosphere of a warrior. His hands and feet were covered with thick chains. The shackles were locked, and there was a huge slave collar around his neck. As soon as this giant slave came out, Claudius felt it, and the two celestial dragons sitting in front seemed to be interested. According to Claudius' knowledge, in the slave market, except for the two mermaid slaves that Doflamingo gave him, these giants are the most valuable, and the starting price is also 50 million Baileys. For ordinary nobles, it can be called a huge sum of money, but for celestial dragons, it is really not a huge amount of money. Lower celestial dragons like Claudius can earn money from the sky every month. It's divided into 500 million Baileys pocket money, and more importantly, their celestial dragons basically have nothing to spend. Those rare treasures and the luxury of eating and drinking in life are basically most of them are supported by the world government from various wealthy merchants who do business in Marie Joyce. It is too late for them to cheat the Celestial Dragons group. How can they have the guts to ask them Celestial Dragons to collect their accounts? Therefore, Claudius has not used the pocket money of 500 million Baileys every month so far. Instead, he has saved a huge sum of money, waiting to be used as the start-up capital for his dominance in the future. As for the rest of celestial dragons, the biggest expense on weekdays may be spending lavishly on Sabayati archipelago. Claudius estimates that based on their urinary sex, they will not stop until they ruin Pele every month. Among them, this auction, yes, maybe it is one of the big heads. Sure enough, Claudius had no idea about the giant slaves, but the two sitting in front of him had very ideas, and raised their hands to directly push the price down to the high price of 100 million baileys. Even if the other great nobles were rich, they didn't dare to compete with celestial dragons. However, the two celestial dragons who had been chatting very happily before, at this time actually had infighting and quarreled. It didn't take long for the price to soar to nearly 200 million, and then another celestial dragons gave up this kind of contention somewhat unhappy. After that, some interesting things came out, including the brawny slaves of the Murlocs, and some weird treasures, which made Claudius a little bit interesting, and the celestial dragons in front of them did not compete for anything. It wasn't until a devil fruit appeared that Claudius' eyes lit up, and he smiled and motioned for Nia to raise his card. 150 million, for the first time, is there anyone else who wants to bid? This time the devil fruit is a very rare logia. Even if the price is doubled, it is very cost-effective. The auction, the teacher stood on the field and kept agitating the sellers below. Claudius didn't care what he said at all, but he was really interested in this devil fruit, because this is the marsh fruit that will be called the most trash logia in the future. Although this fruit is also logia, it does have some rubbish, especially in terms of ability. It can be said to be ruining people. Whoever eats this fruit will say goodbye to appearance. However, the strength of this devil fruit is quite strong. If it falls into the hands of those who don't mind the appearance, it is hard to say that it will create a top master, but it is still very possible to get a general master. Claudius saw this thing, not for this purpose, but thinking that in a few years, maybe Marine's scientific team should get Vegapunk, a big man in the scientific world, and he will definitely work out the kind let the item eat devil fruits technology. And this marsh fruit, if you can't find a suitable person to eat, it's good to make it into a portable item. As long as you don't dislike it, it's equivalent to getting a spatial equipment. It's much more convenient to do everything. At the worst, it can also be used to frame up some guys who are not pleasing to the eye, just like his previous experience. Not to mention, after being the celestial dragons for the past 6 months, Claudius has also been infected with some of these stinky problems. At any rate, it is Logia's devil fruit. Even the rubbish is very precious. It is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He wants to bring it. Deceptive, there is no burden in my heart. Claudius did not reveal the identity of celestial dragons, so others were not used to him, but after several bids, he still let him use the high price of 300 million baileys to get this marsh fruit. It's a bit of a gain, which also makes Claudius more interested in the auction items later. Sure enough, it didn't take long before a famous knife that seemed to sell well was pushed up. Look, everyone, this famous knife is one of the 21st masterpieces of the great industry. Its name is Zindu. It was collected by our auction house at a high price from the black market, and you don't want to hide it from you. Zindu is a demon sword. According to legend, it was cast by a large pirate who was good at building weapons hundreds of years ago. The knife had done countless evils before and had too many grievances entangled in his body. Therefore, in the process of casting the knife, these grievances were also cast in. However, after more than 100 years of spreading, the grievances on the demon sword of Zindu seem to have faded. We guess it's time for this famous knife, which is ranked 21st of the great industry, to be reborn, and hereby find a destined person for it at this auction. The auctioneer was very excited and introduced this knife. Claudius was also watching this so-called demon knife at this time. Just looking at the appearance, it was indeed very good. The scabbard of the knife body was made of wood, it was black like ink, and it was dotted with a few stripes. The golden thread looks simple but mysterious, especially with a few dark green gems dotted on the scabbard. It is natural, without the luxury of the nouveau riche at all, but it makes people think that this gem deserves it. The embellishment here has the same effect as the finishing touch. The handle also carries the low-key luxury atmosphere. The blood-red tangled thread wraps the handle round, and the lines are very clear. The blade was deliberately pulled out, and it was so far away. From the distance, you can perceive the lingering air above. Sure enough, it is the 21st job of Daewoo, a top-notch knife. Claudius looked at such a knife with great interest in his heart. He had already decided to take it down. Looking at Claudius's expression, Nia's butler hesitated and said, "His Royal Highness, this knife looks really good, but it's a demon sword. I heard that the demon sword is against the Lord, Your Highness, ha 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 ha, what are you afraid of? I still don't believe this knife can kill me." Claudius laughed and said. The starting price of Demon Blade Zindu was very high as 300 million baileys. Claudius did not make the first shot, but was just observing who was his opponent. In the beginning, some great nobles were bidding, and it didn't take long to call the demon knife Zindu to the position of 400 million Baileys. Then I didn't know what was going on, and I sat not far in front of Claudius, which I hadn't bought before. The fellow of the giant's slave added 50 million Baileys in one bite, as if he was also interested in this knife. When he spoke, the rest of the people didn't dare to keep asking prices anymore. Claudius thought about it, and he was ready to grab the goods. But before he asked Naya to bid, suddenly a middle-aged man with blonde hair sitting in the last row of the auction smiled and bid a price of 500 million. Claudius looked back in surprise. Although the guy felt like a middle-aged man, he was very handsome. How handsome was he? Arguably the most handsome uncle Claudius has ever seen. At the first glance, he felt handsome, and at the second glance, Claudius was surprised. Hilbart's Rayleigh. Claudius was startled. Not only did Claudius recognize Rayleigh, if Rayleigh hadn't said anything, he would sit in the last row, and no one would pay attention to them, but Rayleigh would bid with celestial dragons as soon as he appeared, and it would have attracted most of the audience. Human eyes. It just so happens that Rayleigh is not a nameless guy, he is the deputy captain of the Roger Pirates. If there is no big name in the early years, but in the Battle of the Canyon of the Gods, even though Roger Pirates was wiped out by the world government, lost the sense of existence, but secretly on the blacklist. In the past few years, the Roger Pirates have been chased by the marine hero Garp, and they have often clashed with large pirates such as Whitebeard and Golden Lion. Their names are getting bigger and bigger. Among them, Roger is called Golden. Roger and Rayleigh are called Silver Rayleigh. That's right, Rayleigh at this time hasn't gotten the title of Hacky like Pluton, but he is also a big pirate in the sea. The name of Silver is also popular all over the world. It is one of the pirates that the world government focuses on offering a reward for killing, offering a reward of 1.2 billion Baileys. You must know that it is not the extremely evil generation yet. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Big Mom, Kaido and others have not pushed the bounty to the 4 billion start position. Now Whitebeard is also the reward of 2 billion Baileys. This is because he shines in the Canyon of the Gods. Kaido and the others are more than 1 billion yuan, so Rayleigh's 1.2 billion rewards are placed now, too. Full of gold. It's a pirate, the deputy captain of Roger's pirate group. Rayleigh of Silver. No wonder you dare to ask celestial dragons. Would you like to inform Marine? It's not far from Malinford. While Claudius was surprised, his gaze swept away. Sure enough, beside Rayleigh, there was also a large group of people sitting. Among them was a guy with a plain appearance but a compelling temperament. Just sitting there at random, there was a person on his body. The dominant spirit, yes, it is the kind of real domineering spirit, which is awe-inspiring. This guy is still carrying half a bottle of inferior drinks in his hand, wearing a bad street captain's coat, and wearing a standard pirate captain's hat, as if a little drunk. At a glance, as if he recognized Rayleigh, Claudius also recognized the identity of this guy, that is, the first generation One Piece Gold Roger who will start the era of the big pirate in the future. Didn't you say to be low-key, don't cause trouble, the boat will be coated immediately, it is too close to Malinford, I don't want to provoke the troublesome guy Garp, Rayleigh, Roger some looking helplessly at the pushy Rayleigh, he spoke. Rayleigh didn't care about Roger's complaint at all. Instead, he said with a smile, that knife is very good, Daeua 21 Gong, you should know what I rely on for food. Roger glanced at the unknown western sword hanging from Rayleigh's waist, nodded and said, look at the knife on your waist, that's it, how can I say that I am also a swordsman? I saw the famous sword and I want to buy it. There is no problem at all. Rayleigh said with a laugh. Just when Roger was about to say a few words, a strong man with sunglasses and a ponytail smiled and joked, Captain Roger and Rayleigh have already caused trouble. You still tell him that? What about the nonsense? It's better to ask him to buy the knife earlier. Let's leave as soon as possible. Maybe someone is already telling Marine now, right? Roger scratched his head uncomfortably, and cursed, Jabba, you like to talk to Rayleigh. If you really attract Garp, you will be left behind. We will wait for you at the Fishman Island. Ha 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 ha, there is no problem at all, but I think Garp Vice Admiral may not stop because of me. I hope he won't stare at you, the captain. Jabba laughed and said. Claudius looked at the situation over there and was shocked, not only Rayleigh, but also One Piece Roger, and the mysterious copper Jabba in the future. Unexpectedly, this Roger pirate group is hidden on the Sabayati archipelago? If it is discovered by Garp Vice Admiral, I don't know if he will drag Darag to New World to find Akoku in trouble. Claudius, some thoughts funny in my heart. Just as Claudius was thinking about these things, the celestial dragons in front of him seemed to be irritated by the attitude of the Rayleigh people who did not put themselves in the slightest. Fortunately, he did not cause any trouble, but called again. At a high price, 600 million Baileys were called out. I don't know if it was because the money came too quickly, so I didn't put the money in the eyes at all, and Rayleigh added another 50 million. Sure enough, the Roger pirates are not so brilliant, Claudius smiled, thinking so in his heart. Just kidding, the Roger pirates doesn't do production, a boat of thugs, where can the money come from? Even if it is great to find some treasures or something, it is impossible to throw out 5 or 6 billion at will, right? Undoubtedly, most of the money was robbed, either pirates or caravans. If Claudius remembers correctly, the Roger pirates have also destroyed the country, a group of them. 7 billion. Celestial dragons sitting in front of Claudius called out angrily, then looked fiercely in the direction of the Roger pirates, and asked, "Who are you? How dare to talk to me?" Rothschild grabbed something. "Do you know who I am?" Claudius sighed helplessly when he saw this. That's why he didn't like to reveal his identity as celestial dragons outside, because it was too embarrassing. So is Rothschild. The noble sense of celestial dragons can't be shown at all. This is obviously an auction. Everyone speaks with financial resources, but he wants to suppress people with his identity like an influential waste. It looks pretty good, but it's too low in price, especially Claudius is willing to believe that the members of the Roger pirates can't give you the face of celestial dragons, otherwise they wouldn't be able to bid you so high profile. Therefore, this behavior not only fails to show the strength of celestial dragons, but also becomes a laughingstock to be sent up to be beaten in the face. However, as a true celestial dragons, Claudius couldn't stand here and watch the idiot in front of them infinitely lower the force of their celestial dragons, so he winked at Nia. Then Nia nodded, ignoring the imposing Saint Rothschild, and directly held up the sign and said, 800 million Baileys. Originally, the Roger pirates and celestial dragons were already exciting enough to grab things. Everyone was eating melons, but at the beginning of the scene, there was a big guy who came in again. Ignore the Roger pirates and celestial dragons and continue to bid? Therefore, Claudius and his party also instantly attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Roger and Rayleigh looked at this side curiously, wanting to see what character it was. Saint Rothschild obviously didn't expect that there would be someone against him besides the Roger pirates, so he turned his head and looked at Nia viciously, cursing, "What are you again? Dare!" But he didn't finish his words. Claudius raised his hand and slapped it in the air. The invisible nitrogen was directly thrown on the face of Saint Rothschild, with a crisp sound, although there was no injury. But stunned Rothschild. It's not just him who was stunned, but everyone in the venue was stunned. The Roger pirates robbed the goods before. At least it was the auction house, and it wouldn't make things impossible to deal with. Who is the ruthless person who jumped out again? Seeing celestial dragons is also correct? Not only hitting, but hitting toward the face? So fierce? Rothschild, my royal highness, don't need you to teach it yet. Claudius said calmly while sitting there. That expression and gaze made it clear that he didn't put this guy in his eyes. The butler Nia was so touched that he was about to cry. His Highness actually slaps celestial dragons for a servant like her. Rothschild only saw the master at this time, and then recognized the identity of Claudius, and said very annoyedly, "Claudius, it turns out that it is you bastard, you dare to beat me? My father has never beaten me. Then you will treat you as if I was educating you for your father. A good auction, what kind of shit do you play? We will lose the face of our celestial dragons. If you have money, continue to follow your highness is asking for a price. If you don't have any money, just go home and ask your father to file a complaint." Claudius said unceremoniously. "Just kidding, their Don Quixote family is among the Marie-Joy's celestial dragons group, they are notoriously stubborn, weird, and wonderful. Didn't you see that there were people who went down to the world not long ago?" Claudius' temper came up, and he hit celestial dragons of the same class. As long as he didn't kill him, there would be no problem with Mao. This kind of thing is not once or twice in the celestial dragons class. Celestial dragons who are not pleasing to the eye often compete with each other, and sometimes get angry, and it is normal to hit people. The most important point is that the Museland family where the Rothschild sanctuary belongs is not as high as the Don Quixote family among the 19 celestial dragons, even among the bottom 9. In other words, Rothschild could not provoke him at all. Hi. Rothschild pointed to Claudius several times and was speechless. He didn't have the power to bind a chicken, and he knew that he would not be like Claudius that could hurt people in the air. The guy's opponent, so wisely gave up the opportunity to speak harsh words. Anyway, he didn't buy anything here. He was completely ashamed and couldn't stay any longer. Turning around, he took a lot of his servants and left the auction room in anger. At this point, the rest of the talents have figured out the situation. No wonder they dare to bid celestial dragons, no wonder they dare to slap celestial dragons. It turns out that this big guy is also celestial dragons, and it seems that he has a bigger background, and I haven't watched the fight. The other party didn't even dare to let go and left. At this time, after another celestial dragons looked at Claudius, he looked at the direction where Rothschild had left, thought for a while, and followed him. After all, he doesn't have much friendship with Claudius, and he still has some friendship with that guy, otherwise he won't sit together and come to the auction to relax. What? Wasn't the two still vying for giant slaves? Damn, is this a thing in the eyes of celestial dragons? So he thought that he should not stay here for a long time at this time, lest he accidentally provokes the freaks of the Don Quixote family and get slapped in the face. Isn't it worthwhile? As for the giant slaves he photographed before? Forgive the owner of the auction house not daring to embezzle it. Without these two guys who pulled celestial dragons down, Claudius was also very happy. After the matter was settled, he also turned his head and looked at the Roger pirates, apologizing to Rayleigh. He smiled, seeming to apologize for the unruly Saint Rothschild before. This surprised both Rayleigh and Roger. Unexpectedly, there is such a guy in Celestial Dragons? It's really funny. Roger said with some amusement. Rayleigh looked at Claudius, feeling a little helpless, and sat down very regretfully. When Roger saw this, he asked strangely, "Why didn't you bid? Didn't you like the knife? That guy named Claudius has helped to settle the troublesome Celestial Dragons so much. I continue to bid. It seems a bit too petty. I can't do such a shameful thing," Rayleigh said helplessly. Without Rayleigh, this handsome uncle made trouble, the others didn't dare to come with such a fierce fellow like Claudius to grab this demon knife heart crossing. Why do you want to ask? Nonsense, of course it is because you are not qualified. If you have the ability, you can also chase out and slap that Saint Rothschild, and then continue to sit here and ask for a price. In the future, there will be nothing worthy of Claudius's heart. It is already a pretty good harvest to be able to get a famous knife that ranks 21st among the big business at this small auction, and it can even be said to be surprisingly happy after all. Daeua 21 work is not a mess of famous knives, but the famous treasure knives that can be squeezed in. But it's also because this Zindu is a demon sword, which is more taboo. Otherwise, it won't be auctioned in such a shit place. Once born, it is estimated that there will be many great swordsmen going to grab it. But then again, the reason why this demon sword Zindu only ranks in the 21st industry of great cause and not among the 12 greatest causes of art is precisely because it is a demon sword. Otherwise, maybe it can go further, or it can have the name of first generation ghost sword, so people don't care that it is demon sword. As a formidable sword tyrant, Rayleigh has a very sharp vision. He is not going to be able to compete with celestial dragons here, because he can see that the quality of this monster sword is completely capable. It's worthy of the word top, but the reputation is not enough. That's why I was here to grab the sword with celestial dragons, which caused some unnecessary troubles to the Roger pirates. But in the end, this demon knife finally fell into the hands of another celestial dragons. Although it is not a hate, there are still regrets. Rayleigh always feels that this demon knife is going to be dusted again. Anyway, he couldn't think of the scene where celestial dragons would take a demon knife and go out to hack people. It was only when the Claudius family had big business and rich wealth, so he bought a demon knife and went back to play. After all, this kind of thing is not unusual among celestial dragons. After the auction was over, Claudius asked Stussy to arrange for some people to take the demon knife Zindu and Logia marsh fruit he bought in his hands, and then he continued to wander around the Sabaody archipelago. Of course, he didn't worry that someone in this Sabaody archipelago would dare to snatch something from his celestial dragons. If so, Admiral would come soon. Stussy can be considered a familiar face in front of Claudius these days. As a qualified agent, she can be considered to have understood Claudius' character and temper, and she has no sense of restraint like the first time we met before. N.S. I saw her following Claudius, smiling and saying, "I thought your highness would buy a few slaves or something, but I didn't expect to buy devil fruit and devil knife. The demon sword is nothing. There is a celestial dragons that I want to buy just now, but devil fruit, to be honest, she hasn't seen any celestial dragons that will buy this at auction. After all, this thing is in the eyes of celestial dragons. Belongs to an influential toy, nothing more." Claudius smiled and said, "If you like it, you can buy it. How can there be so many surprises? Where is your interest? It costs more than 1 billion for one like, it's really rich and willful." Stussy thought so in her heart, but she didn't say anything, and went along with Claudius and chatted about some topics along the way. "His Royal Highness, you will be at the port of the illegal zone any further ahead. It is the most dangerous place and there is nothing to see. It's better than us," Stussy suggested softly. "Yes, the port in the illegal zone is indeed a more dangerous place in the whole illegal zone. After all, here is the feeling of there is a way behind. If there really is something that can't be mixed up on the Sabaody archipelago, shoot, just slap your butt and you can sail away." Claudius nodded, and said, "If that's the case, then go back." Originally, he thought it would be better to go to the port to see the Oro Jackson of the Roger pirates that will become famous in the future, but then he thought about it, if Roger was so careless to park the ship in the port for coding. In all likelihood, the film is not plated properly, so let's wait for Garp, an old friend, to tell him about the past. Therefore, this thought is extinguished. Sabayati archipelago is not worth seeing now. When there is time next time, let's consider it again. Maybe this place is suitable as the first area of his development. There is no other reason. One is that the transportation here is convenient and it is a very important hub island, and the other is that it is very close to Marie Joyce and it is also convenient for him to operate. Just as the group of people turned their directions and walked away from the illegal zone, it didn't take long before they heard the familiar arrogant sound behind a mountain bag in the distance. Claudius frowned slightly, and said, "Let's go and see what that idiot is doing." That's right, this arrogant voice came from the Saint Rothschild who was slapped by Claudius just now. As soon as he came to the top of this small hill, Claudius saw a group of celestial dragons' servants encircling a group of people underneath, and that group was a group of Roger pirates. As for Rothschild, he was sitting very arrogantly on the back of a huge Murloc slave, commanding his servants to hunt the Roger pirates. Hearing his tone, it seemed that the Roger pirates could not get out of the Sabayati archipelago today, and they would all take Marie Joyce back as slaves, so that they would be better off dead or something. This Rothschild is also a talent. He knows that he should not be able to provoke Claudius, and he has no other losses. He went back and complained that his dad might vent his anger on his mouth at the most. I really wanted to trouble Claudius. Relying on the small conflicts just now, it is not enough. But the pressure in his heart can't go down. I can't offend the damn Claudius. Can I offend you group of pirates from the countryside? If it wasn't for you bastards who jumped out to make trouble with me, I wouldn't have been in conflict with Claudius. I will take care of you today so that you know that I am the noble celestial dragons. Claudius looked at the scene below, and was also very surprised. You Rothschild, this is a heifer standing upside down, cowhide soaring to the sky. Humph, now I'll kneel down for me, if my highness is in a good mood, maybe I can leave you a whole body. Rothschild looked very arrogantly at the Roger pirates surrounded by him. The members spoke. And including Roger, no one moved at this time, and the scene was very quiet. This scene was in Claudius's eyes, knowing that they were planning whether to clean up the celestial dragons. But in Rothschild's eyes, he thought these guys were frightened by him and didn't dare to move. Now that you are afraid? Know that you can't offend me, right? Rothschild said very arrogantly. On the other side, Rayleigh glanced at Roger and asked, how is this arranged? If you want me to say, just kill them all, Douglas Bullet said the brawny man. Douglas Bullet is the newly recruited brother of the Roger pirates. Although he is a small brother in the Roger pirates, his strength is not small. A guy who might be half and half. I used to be a member of the army of a certain country, and then I was betrayed by a trusted boss, and finally annihilated the army of that country, and was listed as a vicious criminal by the world government. I don't know what happened, but I fell into the Roger pirate anyway. The group's thief ship, so this guy's style is very fierce. Anyway, as for the Roger pirates group, none of them counts as one. If they are caught and sent to Impel Down, they are all considered good lives. Basically, they all want executed. So the debt is not overwhelming. Anyway, it is a capital crime, and killing another celestial dragons seems to be the same. As for the pursuit of Marine Admiral, in the view of the Roger pirates, it is not too difficult a problem. As long as they pass through the Fishman Island and enter the New World again, it will be difficult for Sengoku and Zephyr to catch them. However, Roger didn't want to make it so irreversible. Now their pirates can stay at ease, because they didn't push Marine anymore. Only Garp is catching them desperately. If they really kill a celestial dragons, Marine will take it. Under the tremendous pressure from above, I have to catch them desperately. Even if I enter the New World, I am not afraid of being caught, but the trouble is not small, and it is easy to affect their adventures. Therefore, Roger shook his head and said, there is no need to kill, but we can't weaken the name of our Roger pirates. Let's beat him half-handed. I must use the strength of the world government to find a healing ability. It's no problem for the person to cure him. As long as celestial dragons doesn't die, the rest will be easy to say. He deserves to be the one piece of the future. He talks about Haki, and celestial dragons also talks about defeating the disabled, so I don't feel any pressure at all. Rayleigh is also a refreshing guy. He smiled and said, since this thing started because of me, let me do it. As soon as he finished speaking, Rayleigh didn't mean to take a knife. His knife is not something that can be seen by any rubbish. There is a celestial dragons, and he is not worthy of letting him out. Stepping on the foot, Rayleigh is extremely fast, but he doesn't seem to use his full strength. Think about it, too. Packing a celestial dragons, how can he get his full strength? Because of this, at this moment, Claudius was also given a chance. Although Claudius could not understand the Rothschild just now, but no matter what, Rothschild is also celestial dragons, and Claudius is also celestial dragons. Ross, if Zirny was beaten to a half-handed by the Roger pirates here, after the incident spread, he would not be the only one who would be ashamed, and even Claudius and all celestial dragons would be ashamed with them. Therefore, the saying "my people don't need you to teach, I can slap him, Claudius, because I am celestial dragons. I don't laugh at him or shame celestial dragons, but you really can't." So at the moment Rayleigh did it, Claudius did it too. He didn't have that fast speed, and he didn't have the ability to block Rayleigh himself, but the weapon in his hand was okay. "Shoot him, Shinso," Claudius whispered softly. In the next second, from the hill, a cold light flew out at a speed invisible to the naked eye, and the target was directed at Rayleigh. At the same moment when Claudius started his hands, the Roger pirates all found out, naturally including Rayleigh who was working on his hands. With a glance in his eyes, he was shocked. With his eyesight and observation Haki's bonus, it was instantly seeing Claudius' method clearly. That's why he was surprised, because he actually saw a knife inserted directly from the distant hillside. Yes, it was not a slash, but the entire blade was lengthened countless times, and the speed was so fast. More than 3 times faster than a musket. With armament Haki in his hand, Rayleigh rushed to the strange knife to hit him, grabbed the tip of the knife, and was taken back by Shinso more than 3 steps, and slammed the ground out of the ground. Cracked footprints. Claudius was also stunned at this time. He thought that Rayleigh would avoid him, but he really didn't expect Rayleigh to catch Shinso. This thankless thing, what did he do? In the next second, as Claudius's heart moved, Shinso had already returned to its original form, and he had been put in the scabbard. Rayleigh looked at his empty hands, he was also a little embarrassed. He just wanted to grab that strange knife before he went to pick up the flying knife. Who would have thought that it wouldn't happen right away? NS? Didn't catch it by yourself. If Claudius knew about Rayleigh's nasty thoughts, he might have laughed at him. Just kidding, Lao Zi is a godsend. It's all bound equipment in the game. If you grab it, grab it. Too much worthy of yourself, right? Chapter 28 Roger Pirates is a bit low? One more, after Rayleigh was blocked, he didn't do it again. On the contrary, he looked at Claudius and his group on the hill with very surprised eyes. Some wondered why he stopped his behavior. Didn't this guy slap the celestial dragons before? It stands to reason that the relationship between the two is not good. There is no need to stand up for him, right? You're the guy in the auction house just now, it's Crow, what's the matter? Rayleigh looked at Claudius and asked. Claudius, Don Quixote Claudius. Claudius said softly. Sure enough, you are celestial dragons, no wonder you dare to hit him. Rayleigh said with a smile. Claudius also smiled and said, aren't you going to beat him too? It seems that the name of celestial dragons can't be controlled by you. At this moment, Roger looked at Claudius with interest and laughed. Ha 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 ha, we are pirates, we are not a good guy who obeys the law. Even if we don't hit your celestial dragons, Marine will still come to us for trouble. If we hit your celestial dragons, it will be the same. Don't be afraid of more lice. Bite, we don't have a fixed place anyway, and wanting to catch us is not that simple. Roger said with a laugh. Really? That's the truth, but if I didn't see it, I just happened to see it. As celestial dragons, you can't let you bully Rothschild like this. Claudius nodded and responded. Road. Rayleigh was a little surprised and asked, it's strange, didn't you still bully him before? Claudius glanced at Rayleigh, and then said, I am celestial dragons. How I deal with him is the internal affairs of our celestial dragons. You are just pirates. If you hit him, you can't catch you. The celestial dragon's face is lost, and I will be humiliated along with it, so of course I can't leave it alone. After listening to Claudius, Rayleigh reacted and nodded slightly in approval, but before he could say anything, Rothschild started to interrupt. Claudius, you bastard, don't take care of things, just these untouchable pirates can bully me? I have twice as many servants as they are. Rothschild pointed to Claudius with no mercy. Said. Idiot, Claudius said disdainfully. At the same time, Roger laughed again. Ha 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 ha, that's right, what an idiot, I thought celestial dragons are all idiots, but I didn't expect to have someone like you. Roger said with a laugh. At the same time, as soon as his voice fell, a powerful breath burst out from his body, and in an instant, it swept all around. Claudius only felt his chest sink, as if he was under some great pressure. Queen Stussy, who was standing next to Claudius, changed her expression suddenly and said in disbelief, Conquerors, conquerors Haki. Sure enough, conquerors. Claudius thought so in his heart. But he was not overly surprised, joking, Roger, who will become One Piece in the future, how could there be no conquerors? But it seemed that Roger hadn't targeted Claudius too much, and even the butler ninja hadn't fainted in shock by conquerors Haki, he just felt a little stressed. Claudius is fine on this side, but Rothschild's side is not so simple. I saw Roger's invisible conquerors Haki swept away. Except for Rothschild, who was stunned and unknown, the rest the servants who had brought them all collapsed into a coma. Suddenly, Rothschild, who was still popular and powerful just now, became a polished commander. Ah! What good things have you done? Rothschild asked in horror. Seeing him like this, Claudius was so angry that it was due to some powerful guys in celestial dragons. If all of them were rubbish like Rothschild, even if he had the power to reach the sky, I was afraid. I will also be brought down by this group of pig teammates, idiot. Now you know if your servants are useful. Don't get out of here. Claudius cursed at Rothschild. This Rothschild is really an unscrupulous guy. He had a dispute with Claudius before, but now he doesn't care at all. He was so scared by the power of Conqueror's Haki, Roger, that he didn't dare to be arrogant anymore when he heard what Claudius said. Scrambled off the comatose slave in a panic, and ran towards Claudius with a dash of fart. No one stops you now. You are already out of this anger. Some of you are not leaving yet, do you want to come back to Marie Joy's with me? Claudius looked at the Roger pirates and the group of people over there and spoke softly. Said. Roger looked at Claudius with a very curious look. He hadn't seen celestial dragons. He was in the Canyon of the Gods. Although it was not intentional and the purpose was different, he still helped Garp protect celestial dragons, right? So of course he has been in contact with celestial dragons, but for this group, he has no good impression at all. Until today, he met Claudius and discovered that there is such an interesting person among celestial dragons? Just say whatever you think. Roger is not a good-natured person. He is interested in Claudius, so he has no signs. He suddenly looked at Claudius and said, I said you, it's so meaningless to be a celestial dragons. Do you want to go out to sea with me? This world is very big, and we are determined to find the end of the world. It will be very interesting. Do you want to come with us? Claudius originally wondered if Roger would push his nose to his face. If he really had to vent his anger with Rothschild, Claudius would not do anything about it, nor would he fight for his life to protect Rothschild. Nepalese. It's just unexpected that Roger didn't think about the Rothschild matter at all, but suddenly asked if he wanted to get on the boat. This stunned Claudius. Are you pirates so unrestrained? Am I celestial dragons? Letting the great power and life not enjoy, how many runs with you? Where does your confidence feel that I might be on your thief ship? Not only was Claudius stunned, everyone present was stunned. After returning to his senses, Rayleigh hurriedly said, Roger, are you crazy? If he really gets on our boat, we don't even think about taking risks in the future. World government and Marine will not let us go. That's right, if Claudius really got on his ship, the world government would not think that Claudius was voluntary, and would treat it 100% as a kidnapping case, and would not give up without destroying the Roger pirates. Kind. Otherwise, if something like Seal Sial dragons are going to be a pirate is spread out, then the face of the world government will be completely lost. Rayleigh reprimanded Roger, and Roger seemed to have reacted, with a wry smile on his face, and Claudius also recovered from the shock at this time. To say whether he wants to get on Roger's ship, let's not say, I really want to, if he is not a celestial dragons, but just a bastard living in Sabayati archipelago, at this time he doesn't need Roger to speak, he has to find ways to get on Roger's ship. Go, follow the trend and follow Roger to see the end and truth of this world. But now he is celestial dragons. He will only become a pirate when his brain is sick. At this time, he can't do the Roger pirates. If he can do it, he can't possibly kill Roger here. Claudius did not respond to Roger. Roger knew that he had said the wrong thing. For a while, both scenes were a bit embarrassing and silent. At this moment, Copper Jabba opened his mouth next to Roger and said softly, Captain, someone had notified Marine at the auction just now. If you don't leave, it will be a little troublesome. The fellow Roger seemed to have just remembered it. He nodded quickly and said, yes, right, let's go, I have a hunch, that fellow Garp might be running towards us. Thinking of this, the Roger pirate group immediately stopped entanglement with Claudius and the group, and was ready to leave Sabayati archipelago quickly. Before leaving, Roger seemed to think he was also a famous New World pirate. It just left, as if a little embarrassed, so before leaving, I didn't forget to shout to Claudius, what I just said is still valid. If you don't want to be celestial dragons someday, come to us. Roger hi, before he could finish his words, Rayleigh covered his mouth and said, you are not finished? What if celestial dragon's brain gets hot and you really want to get on the ship, you won't be able to bear it. Come on. In this way, although it feels a little strange and anticlimactic, it seems that his uncle Claudius shook his body and scared the Roger pirates away. Claudius also scratched his head with some doubts. This damn thing is different from what I thought. The One Piece in the future. Why does it always feel so low now? However, even if this Roger pirates group feels weird and uncomfortable, Claudius knows very well in his heart that for now, he can't afford them. Today is a bit inexplicable, if it weren't for Roger. Suddenly I said something wrong, and I don't know if it can end harmoniously. These guys are all very dangerous. Thinking of these things in her heart, Suddenly the phone worm on Naya's body rang, and after she answered a few questions, she walked to Claudius's side with a serious expression, and said, "Your Highness, Marie-Joy's side problem occurs." Claudius froze for a moment. Something happened to Marie-Joyce? What's up? Could it be Fisher Tiger who set the fire? This time is wrong. It's 10 or 20 years earlier. So Claudius quickly asked, what happened? The Huoming Gusheng family came back, but was stopped at the port. It seems that there was some dispute, the big butler Naya said quickly. Claudius frowned when he heard the words, and then thought about it in his mind. Finally, he remembered something. It seems that there is something like this. It has been flickering for almost 3 months. The silly white sweet Huoming was here. North Blue couldn't get along anymore and regretted it, so he planned to take his family back to Marie-Joyce to become celestial dragons. But isn't this nonsense? It was you who was leaving at the beginning, but you are still coming back. What do you think of the noble status of celestial dragons? Plaything? What's more, Huoming, the silly Badian, was resolute and determined when he left, and he didn't leave any way for him. Among the celestial dragons of Marie-Joyce, their family is already a betrayer. More importantly, you are running back now. What do you think of Lancelot, who has been the head of the house for 3 months? Are you a scammer? Claudius shook his head helplessly and thought so in his heart. After a short pause, Claudius said, "Anyway, Dover is my cousin, so I can't let people bully them. Go back to Marie-Joyce to see the situation." Chapter 29 Huoming, don't bully the young and poor. 2 more, Claudius turned around and prepared to leave. The group quickly left this place of right and wrong, while Rothschild, who had become the commander of the polished rod, looked at the situation with a little ignorance. The waists under his hands were all in a coma. After encountering what happened just now, he also knew he was afraid, and understood that there were people in this world who didn't take their celestial dragons seriously. Therefore, once I came to my mind and saw Claudius and the others leaving behind, it was shameless. It is safer to follow them back to Marie-Joyce first. Wait for me, your highness hasn't followed up yet. Rothschild yelled. After that, he stepped on his short legs, shook his bloated body, and madly chased Claudius and his group. Claudius heard his shouting, but didn't turn his head back, and didn't bother to care about him. He is willing to follow, just follow, anyway, 1 more is not more than 1, less than 1 is a lot. Sabayati archipelago is very close to Marie-Joyce on the Red Line. Claudius and their ship will soon arrive at Marie-Joy port. At this time on this ship, Rothschild seems to have his brains awakened. Not only did he not feel resentful for the incident that Claudius slapped him before, but instead followed Claudius without leaving, and kept asking. Some questions bothered Claudius. Is devil fruit delicious? You can't swim now, don't you feel uncomfortable? I heard from the people on the ship that you just came back from that naval headquarters. What did you do there? Was it fun? Who are those pirates just now? Why are they not afraid of us celestial dragons? Claudius was still thinking about something. The bastard Rothschild was chatting in his ear, making Claudius irritable, and finally couldn't help it. You idiot, can you stay away from me? Don't you still have your boat on the Sabayati archipelago? Your servants are also there. What are you going to do with me? Claudius was very unhappy at Rothschild. And I cursed. It seems that some dead pigs are not afraid of being scalded by boiling water, and they have been slapped in the face. Do you still care about scolding? I don't know if these celestial dragons have Stockholm Syndrome. Anyway, after Claudius scolded this Rothschild, he didn't care what he looked like. Those guys are so boring. I went to Sabayati archipelago when Marie-Joyce was so boring, but you seem to be very interesting here, and don't know why. It feels safer to follow you. Rothschild hurriedly said. I slapped you before, and now I call you an idiot and an idiot. If you are celestial dragons, don't you feel uncomfortable? Didn't you feel angry? Claudius looked helplessly at Rothschild and said. If this guy is still as arrogant as before, he doesn't mind hitting him again, but this guy puts on the appearance that a dead pig is not afraid of boiling water, and Claudius is not easy to do. Rothschild touched his face, and then said, my father has never beaten me, and no one dared to call me an idiot or an idiot. Having said that, the guy's eyes suddenly lighted up, and he continued, because of this, I think you are interesting. Why are you different from us? I remember you were not like this before. I'm very curious. Damn, is he really sick? Isn't it really Stockholm Syndrome? Claudius thought in his heart. Claudius glanced at Rothschild in disgust, then said, will you stay away from me? I have no interest in you, and I don't want to talk to you. Why? Aren't we all celestial dragons? Rothschild hurriedly asked. You are worthless to me, unless you are willing to be me. What nonsense will I talk to you? Claudius said in a very unhappy voice. He is just disgusting, this guy. It's celestial dragons anyway, so he won't really want to rush to become his own little brother, right? It turned out to be good. As soon as he finished saying this, Rothschild said, "Then I will be your little brother." Claudius was stunned, and hurriedly said, "Rothschild, you are more than 10 years older than me? It's celestial dragons again, can you please have a face?" It's impossible for Claudius to accept him as a kid casually. This guy is also a celestial dragons at any rate. He is in a period of hiding his powers and he doesn't want to be too eye-catching. If he accepts a fellow who is also celestial dragons as a kid, then he goes back. Marie-Joyce estimated that another wave of attention will be drawn, this is not what he wants to happen. What's more, he can't take care of it himself. If he becomes a kid with a mental retardation, he will wait to clean up the mess for the mental retardation. Maybe he will cause some trouble and involve himself in it. But looking at Rothschild, Claudius has some thoughts in his mind. In the future, he must go further in the circle of Marie-Joy celestial dragons. You can't always pretend to be a transparent person. Maybe you can use this brain at that time. Sick guy. Thinking of this, Claudius didn't use the same disgusting attitude he had used before. It didn't take long for Claudius' ship to enter Marie-Joy port. As soon as it got off the ship, it was in that port that a large group of celestial dragons were arguing about something with a few low-powered figures. Claudius took a closer look. Isn't one of them the cousin he hadn't seen for 3 months? Regardless of the bloated body, Rothschild, who was unsuccessful to disembark, Claudius quickly took his own people to the place where the dispute was endless. Huoming, originally you were going to North Blue by yourself. Now you want to come back. It's impossible. You have all been deprived of your celestial dragon's identity. Even if it doesn't work, at least let my 2 children stay in Marie-Joyce, Huoming said with some traces of vicissitudes on his face, begging to speak. At this time, Doflamingo and Rosinante were standing beside Huoming. These 2 little guys were all dirty, and it seemed that they hadn't had a good life for a few days. As for Huoming's wife, Claudius didn't see it, maybe. Already. I was tossed and passed away in North Blue, or I haven't got off the boat yet. Obviously, those celestial dragons can't let Doflamingo and Rosinante stay, otherwise when they grow up, thinking of this kind of thing now, wouldn't they hate them for not saving his father? Just as the 2 sides were arguing, Claudius finally came over and shouted at Doflamingo, "Dover, why are you back?" As soon as he heard Claudius's voice, Doflamingo, who was still aggressive and wanted to compete with those celestial dragons, looked back and saw that his cousin Claudius was running towards him. All of a sudden, Doflamingo's eyes turned red just like seeing his relatives, and all the grievances in his heart came up. With a wow, I saw that Doflamingo, who was still aggressive just now, cried all of a sudden, and ran towards Claudius, running while crying, "Cousin, I finally saw you. I'm so miserable." What? Claudius didn't dislike this kid being dirty, letting Doflamingo hug his waist, and wiped his nose, tears, and so on. Then I heard Doflamingo start to complain. In the past 3 months, he has fallen directly from heaven to hell. The celestial dragons, who were originally aloft, have been bullied to death by the untouchables he didn't look up to, even him. My favorite mother has been tossed and passed away. While listening to Doflamingo's complaint, Claudius also understood the matter. It turned out that on the way to North Blue, his mother suffered some minor illnesses because of her weakness, and finally found a place to live in North Blue. Within a few days, their identities were revealed, and then the guys who were originally untouchables in Doflamingo's eyes became mobs. All the wealth they brought with them was looted, and then they were targeted everywhere. In the end, his mother died because of poor living conditions. Before his death, his mother's last wish was to hope that Doflamingo and the others could return to Marie-Joyce and stop suffering anymore. This was how Huoming came back from North Blue with his 2 sons all the way back. Claudius counted, in just 3 months, without the round trip, I'm afraid Doflamingo and his family have lived in North Blue for less than a week at most, right? In this short week, have they turned them into such a ghostly look? Sure enough, going down the world is terrible, so I have to relax a little bit. While listening to Doflamingo's complaints from Claudius, when he was thinking about what to do, suddenly Huoming broke out over there, as if he couldn't stand being bullied. Okay, I don't think you guys are so cruel. We won't return this Marie-Joyce. But you all remember it to me, 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Hexi, don't bully the young and poor, when my 2 sons will have a good future, it won't make you feel better. Huoming's face flushed red, and he pointed to the celestial dragons very annoyed and said. Claudius was stunned at this time. Didn't you also travel through like me? Is it so tasteful? This is obviously the protagonist who is carrying the fate of the protagonist can speak, don't you feel ashamed to say it? While feeling extremely surprised, Claudius also looked at the 2 hapless children Rosinante and Doflamingo sympathetically. These other people are cheating, but your father is cheating his son. Huoming really has a brain problem. If Doflamingo and Rosinante had some hope of returning to Marie-Joyce before, he said this. Coming out is equivalent to completely cutting off the back of Rosinante and Doflamingo. Claudius used to wonder why after Huoming died, celestial dragons were still unwilling to let Rosinante and Doflamingo return to Marie Joyce. Even if Doflamingo killed Mingzi, those guys were unwilling to accept him. After all, it is reasonable to say that even if there is a threat, only Huoming, the former patriarch, is a little threatening, which may cause Lancelot into an embarrassing situation, so Lancelot did not appear here at all. Doflamingo and Rosinante are just two little kids. After Huoming died, it can be said that there is no threat at all. What's more, Doflamingo has killed Daddy Mingzi and brought them back to Marie Joyce to become the lowest celestial dragons, for the Don Quixote family and the rest of the family, are all painless things, there is no need to do so absolutely, right? But now Claudius understands, Yu Huoming has said everything for this purpose, Doflamingo can still walk out of Marie Joyce with your head in the future, it's all his blessings, fortunately I didn't share with you. Such a cheating father. Huoming was probably too angry. After taking down the cruel words, he took Rosinante and walked back. After he came to Claudius, he looked at Claudius helplessly and didn't say a word. Dragged Doflamingo over again, then turned around and was about to leave. When Claudius saw this, he also sighed, and hurriedly asked the butler Nia to take out all the Bailey on his body, walked a few steps forward, stuffed it into Doflamingo's arms, and whispered, "Cousin, I can't help you. You can spend the money first. After a few days, my cousin will send someone to take care of you secretly. Dover, live well." Doflamingo seemed to be a lot more sensible after suffering. He looked at his cousin very gratefully and nodded. When he wanted to say something, he was dragged away by Huoming. Chapter 30 Dover, you are my brother. 3 shifts, see circle calendar in the middle of 1496, 5 years have passed since the last time the Doflamingo family made a fuss with Marie Joyce. Originally, according to the torrent of history, it should have been in the sea circle calendar 1493. Doflamingo couldn't stand his son's father, who kept dying, and it was all the reason why his family fell into this situation. The reason all boiled down to his father Huoming. As a result, Doflamingo eventually shot his daddy Huoming in North Blue, cut off his head, and brought Marie Joyce, with the intention of returning to the Celestial Dragons class with this incident. But because Claudius participated in it, things have changed a lot in the past few years. First, Claudius secretly sent someone to take care of Huoming and his family. After all, Huoming had given him some favors from Claudius. Although Claudius disliked him very much, he did not want him to end up in the end. Such a tragic end. In the same way, he didn't want his hapless cousin to kill his dad himself, so that he could completely blacken to the point of irreversibility. Under the care of Claudius, Doflamingo and his family currently live in North Blue, although they are not very good, but at least they are pretty decent. They can eat meat for 3 meals a day. In fact, if celestial dragons like Claudius were taking care of them secretly, they wouldn't have been so miserable, but the problem is that Huoming's brain is really hard to a certain extent, and he just doesn't want to accept Claudius's kindness. Therefore, Claudius can only help a little secretly, give them a small amount of money, and send someone to solve some small troubles for them, and nothing else. And Huoming didn't have the ability to make money, so he took his 2 sons to do some part-time jobs in the town all day, earning a little money, and barely making a living. At this time, on a luxurious ship flying the flag of the world government in New World, Claudius was fighting fiercely with a beautiful figure on the deck. In 5 years, Claudius has become a 17-year-old boy, and the last trace of childishness in his body has long since disappeared. Today's image and appearance of Claudius have also undergone tremendous changes compared to 5 years ago. First of all, his height has basically been constantly changing in these 5 years. Now it has exceeded 2.5 meters, and look at it. Going up, there is no way to stop. It is estimated that before the age of 20, you will be able to reach the standard Admiral height of 3 meters, right? In addition to his height, his figure is also very good, the muscles are strong and not conspicuous, not so explosive, but it looks very organized, the body is neither fat nor thin, very suitable. He was originally a handsome seedling, and he did not look crooked. His appearance looked like Doflamingo in later generations, but he lacked the feeling of evil spirits and added some sunshine and toughness. And the beautiful figure who is playing against Claudius is not someone else, but the celebrity of CP0 over the past few years, Queen Stussy. In the past few years, Stussy has embraced Claudius' thigh. In CP0, she is also a member of the Celestial Dragons. In addition, she is already very capable and not weak, helping CP-0 has become several major events, and his status has also risen, and he has become a senior agent in CP0. It is for these reasons that in the past few years, her relationship with Claudius has become closer and closer, and she is now one of Claudius' confidants. Originally, Claudius didn't plan to poach Stussy so quickly, but Stussy may really think that Claudius, the Celestial Dragons, is different, and he is betting all his future on Claudius. In this way, the subtle influence over the past 5 years has actually made Stussy a person next to Claudius. Slender fingers took Haki and brushed it from the side of Claudius' short light blonde hair, almost hurting Claudius's ear. Before he had time to change his move, Claudius grabbed Stussy's arm with his backhand, and then squeezed it sharply. The sound of Ming broke out from this arm. Enduring the intense pain in his arm, Stussy kicked Claudius' chest, which was considered free from the restraints. As soon as he landed, before he could stand still, he saw Claudius' mouth with a smile. Shocked in her heart, Stussy didn't hesitate to continue to retreat and distanced herself. As a result, she heard Claudius's smiling voice reach her ears. "It's late," Claudius said softly. In the next moment, Stussy felt her chest hit by an invisible force, and the powerful impact directly knocked her out of the deck and plunged into the sea in the distance. At the same time, Claudius also smiled and lifted the state of combat readiness. Not far away, the butler Nia quickly took a black mink coat and put it on Claudius's shoulders, and asked with some concern. "Your Highness, your chest is okay, right?" She saw it just now, that bastard Stussy dared to kick His Highness in the chest, and she didn't know if His Highness was injured? Claudius smiled and said, "It's okay, it's just a little sore." As soon as he finished his words, he was wet all over, and Stussy, who looked like a soup chicken, crawled out of the sea to the deck with a grieving face, and said with great dissatisfaction, "Your Majesty, I am also a woman anyway? You don't mean to keep your hands at all. Ha 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 ha, I believe in equality between men and women, and I'm a justice. I won't pity Jade just because you are a woman, Stussy." Claudius laughed and said. Stussy pushed up the wet sleeves a bit, and when he looked down, he saw 5 green and black fingerprints on his arm. It was obvious that they had just been pinched by Claudius. She rubbed her arm a little painfully, and said, "Your Highness, your armament Haki is getting stronger and stronger. Even if I use Haki and Iron Body to defend together, you still get hurt. Change it. Ordinary people, I guess my arm will be broken, right?" Claudius smiled and raised his arm. With a little effort, a powerful armament Haki covered his arm, turning the arm into pitch black. Upon seeing this, Claudius nodded in satisfaction, and then said, "Now I am finally able to use armament Haki and observation Haki skillfully, but I heard that there is a higher level above armament Haki." Stussy nodded and then said, "Yes, armament Haki is roughly divided into 3 stages. The first stage is entanglement. Haki can be entangled on the attack, so you can catch your Highness like you with Logia ability. The second stage is called hardening. Covering the armament Haki on the position you want to cover, whether it is to enhance the body's defense or attack, it is very powerful. The third stage is to put it out. Now, you can wound people in the air just like your Royal Highness did just now, and it's full of lethality." Of course, Claudius already knew these things. He smiled and said, "The training of armament Haki takes time to accumulate. The trick I used just now is not an armament Haki. I can't reach it now. At that level, that was ability just now, I know, you call it a vitality bomb." Stussy smiled and nodded. Claudius nodded, and as soon as he was about to speak, he heard the butler Nia say, "Your Majesty, look, we're almost there, Cornello Island." Col Nero Island, a famous hot spring island in the New World waters, is also a good place for tourism and vacations. It is not too far from the Red Line. If the boat is faster, it will be a 7 or 8 day voyage. However, this time Claudius came to Col Nero Island, not for vacation, but to meet friends. This friend is Garp Vice Admiral's son, Durag. Since they were separated in the ward in Malinford, Claudius and Durag have not seen each other again, but there are still a lot of phone worm contacts, and the two have gotten in touch a lot, and can be called friends. At the beginning of the year, a big event happened at Naval Headquarters, that is, the son of Hero Garp, Durag Vice Admiral, who was supposed to be promoted to Admiral of Headquarters suddenly retired from Marine. This can be regarded as shocking everyone's attention. Whether it is Sengoku Admiral or Zephyr Admiral, they kept persuading the guy Durag to change his mind. The result is still that Mao has not used it, but it has been a long time to train his own son. Garp Vice Admiral, who became an excellent Marine, finally let Durag leave Malinford. At this point, the promising Durag Vice Admiral disappeared into the sea. Claudius hasn't contacted this guy for a while, until almost 2 weeks ago, this guy Durag suddenly met him in the phone worm Rio, the location is on this Cornero Island, saying that there is something important to discuss with him. I hope Claudius must spare some time to meet him. Claudius hasn't run around in recent years, basically just wandering around on the islands near Marie Joyce, but New World hasn't been here much. In his leisure time, come and see what the heck Durag is thinking about. Claudius agreed to Durag's invitation, so he will appear in this sea. Looking in the direction pointed out by the chief steward Naya, as expected, an emerald green island had appeared on the sea not far away, and there were more ships around it. It should be about to arrive. Claudius smiled and nodded, and said, "It's okay that I have been floating on the sea for so long, and finally arrived, this Darag, I don't know what the hell is he doing. As soon as the voice fell, the phone worm on the table suddenly rang. Claudius turned his head and glanced, feeling a little strange, thinking that it was the fellow Darag who urged him, but it turned out to be his big cousin. Claudius picked up the phone worm on the table and sat on a chair beside him, smiling and asking, Dover? Why did you suddenly think of contacting me? Did you encounter any difficulties? Just speak up. Cousin, I will definitely help you. Doflamingo was silent on the other side, and did not speak. Just when Claudius felt a little strange, suddenly Doflamingo's voice came from inside. Cousin. I ate a devil fruit. Doflamingo said softly. Claudius was taken aback when he heard the words, then sighed, and asked, What then? I'm leaving this house. No. It should be said that I have had enough of this house, whether my father or my younger brother, they are all. At this point, Doflamingo was silent for a while before continuing. Anyway, I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to leave here. This is not the life I want to live. Claudius didn't persuade him. He knew very well that with Doflamingo's character, it was impossible to live with his silly white sweet father and the mother's bitch brother. Sooner or later, the three of them will have a branch house. In fact, it is true. Doflamingo can't stand it anymore. So, what are you going to do next? Do you need my help? Claudius asked softly. Cousin, are you supporting me? Doflamingo asked with some surprise. He thought his cousin would persuade him or something, but the cousin didn't ask anything. Dover, you are my brother, no matter what you do, I will support you. Claudius smiled and said in a very gentle tone. Asterisk.